right, and welcome back. You're still right with us right here on the hashtag Why in the Morning. This is the last part, and so we're inviting you to let us know where you're watching us from, and that includes on Facebook, literally the meta, you know, Facebook, Threads, and Insta at Y254 channel. And personally, mine is a Brian Sakwan1. Remember, we've asked you a question about money, and since you're talking about matters money as well, the conversation of today is about taxation. And one thing you need to know that for a government to fully, efficiently, successfully implement its functions, it has to operate with collecting revenue, and thus need a presence of a tax authority like Kenya Revenue Authority. But then there's tax laws, there's policies, and also the question sometimes is who determines, you know, a certain type of tax, and in terms of even the bracket itself. And then this again goes to, you know, citizens. By the way, you are required as a patriotic citizen of this country to pay tax because it's under the law. There's somebody who was asking me, are you naturally born a taxpayer in Kenya? And definitely those are some of the questions you are going to get answered by our guest who is live in studio as well, and also including the digital part, the digital market space. How's taxation and taxation systems tapping into that, especially when it comes to now the SMEs and literally how that whole spectrum of revenue collection works. So we're being joined live in the studio by Dr. Regina Wanja Kingori. She's a tax expert, she's an entrepreneur, she's a mentor, she's done a lot, and she has a lot of vast experience. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Asante sana.
Right.
I'm so happy to be here and for this invitation, so thank you so much.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
So we want to get straight up into the conversation about taxes, and the common thing is filing taxes, yeah?
Yeah.
And then I was actually listening to a conversation where people are complaining that nowadays the taxes are way up there, and then now that we have a tax authority like KRA, why was there a need to have, you know, KRA there? And then also, what are some of the policies and the measures that go into such a body that's so sensitive? You know, when you talk about KRA and taxes, it's such an emotive thing with Kenyans, you know. Yes. And but it's your patriotic right as a citizen, and just like I've said, people say nowadays you're born a taxpayer. Yeah. So there's so much that goes into that space, and you have a lot of experience. Please expound.
Okay. So thank you. I believe at this moment, tax is one of the hot debates that people want to know. Right. Particularly because there's a lot of advocacy and a lot of talks about taxes. Yeah. I believe even that time people are still paying taxes, but because it was not an everyday conversation, we weren't so clear or guided about it. But now it's an everyday conversation. Even you ask about children, they can tell you something about taxation. Yeah, so
Zakayo.
Zakayo, yes. Yeah. Yes. If you ask a grandma in the village, she'll tell you that the price of sugar has a lot of taxes. They've come to understand what it means to be taxed and everything.
Yeah, and that points to VAT now as a profession.
Yes, yes, yes. So the way you're saying you're born a taxpayer, most probably is because of the items that you're buying.
Right.
If you look at some of our items that we consume, they are highly taxed. So possibly when in the village you don't have a salary, you don't have a business, but you're buying something from a supermarket or buying your food, you're still paying the value added tax. Even our children, when they are born, the clothes they wear, the items they use, we pay.
Even the birth certificate is taxable. You know, there's somebody was saying that. Yeah.
Okay, at the moment, because we have the regulations, if you look now, if you lose your ID, you have to pay for it. The same way if you have to get the birth certificate. Yes. So there are other levies. Those are other levies that are put there, possibly to earn money or to also regulate the whole process. Because even when it comes to the printing of ID, it's still costly. So if you keep losing, going back, keep losing, going back, it's still a cost to the government. So those are levies. But at the moment, we have a lot of tax. The way you say that the government needs to function. And it needs these taxes to be able to function. So that is the most probable part about the taxes. The only thing at the moment where we are in is that our tax collection is way lower than what we are spending.
Right.
So if you look
lower
at the budget,
in terms of revenue collection, or lower in terms of the earnings that they receive from the netizens.
Yes, the collection, and of course those are the earnings that they are going to receive. The collection is way lower. If you look at the budget for 2024-2025, it was ambitious. We came to about 3.9 trillion.
Right.
In the view of about 2.2 trillion collection. So you can imagine it's almost double.
Right.
So when we are at that position, and when you look at that 3.9 trillion, most of it was payment of debt, recurrent budgets. The recurrent budget is a budget that we spend the money to pay doctors, to pay hospital, to buy medicine, to pay MPs, and those recurrent is money that we are spending. The government is a heavy consumer of these taxes.
Right.
So when it comes to now development becomes very small portion or there is none if the current budget is not able to feature there. So also when we look at the collection, there are other areas that are also affecting the collection. The standard of living right now is quite expensive. So people spending, the spending power is not there. So you find at the end of the day, the companies, possibly the companies that were collecting a lot of money, they are unable to do collections. So they are also not able to pay taxes. So it has a ripple effect on even the collection.
Yeah. If we were to switch this conversation to, I'd say, a Gen Z perspective, maybe we can start off with the specific. I know income tax and also VAT, they are the most unavoidable, like inescapable if you were to look at it in that angle. So maybe let's look at it from a person who is working, the type of tax that they are paying and what the government is, you know, deducting from them. I hear there's deductibles as well. It means there's a bracket as well in which this, as far as this, let's say from 10,000 to 20, this is what we deduct. So talk about that and more.
That's a good conversation. And let's talk about this Gen Z. Who is employed, first of all? We'll come to them that are doing business. So who is employed? They're getting a salary.
Right.
So if they're getting a salary that is above 24,000, they're supposed to be taxed for pay as you earn.
Right.
And pay as you earn, we have even different tax brackets that were introduced, 35%, 32.5%. So they're, according to their where they feature their salary, they get the pay as you earn. But if you're employed, you also come with other four. We have SHA or SHIF, we have NSSF, we have NITA, we have housing levy.
Housing levy. That's under Act 2023?
Yes,
Yeah, 2023.
And it was reinstated. You remember it has a lot of court cases. But around October, the end of October, it was reinstated that it should be followed. So that introduced the housing levy, the e-teams, the fuel from 8% to 16%. It was quite expensive. So it's working. So for somebody who is getting employed, actually if you check, for instance, if you're doing payee, you'll be charged possibly, according to your rate, possibly 20% or 25, 30%, depending. Of
your gross?
Yes, of your gross, depending on your salary. Then you go to housing levy, 1.5%. We have the employer does 1.5%. We have NSSF and we have NHIF is 2.75% of that money.
That is for SHIF.
For SHIF. For SHIF. NSSF also, it has a new tax.
They've adjusted this month or the coming one?
They're coming. New tires for that also. So if you look at all that, there's a lot of
deductions,
and especially,
and both of them, sorry to cut it, all of them are statutory.
Yes.
And so it's like around 6 taxes up.
Yes, 5.
5 now.
5.
Good Lord.
Yes.
Okay.
So you find, especially now that SHIF has come in low last month, we saw so many people complain about now their new salary because the 2.75 is the employer doesn't even contribute on your behalf. It is
it's directly deducted from your
salary. And the previous one had a capping to about 1,700. But this one, if you're earning more, there are people who even paying 20,000, 30,000 out of their salary. So that is somebody who is employed. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And as a company out there who has employees, they have to follow those rules.
Yeah, meaning that they're paying allegiance, or they're not even allegiance. They're being controlled by KRA,
yes,
right?
Yes, they are the collecting agent to KRA. For all the employees you're having, do this. And remember, the companies could also be having casuals.
Right.
So these people are below the 24,000 and they are there. So you still have to do the NHIF, the shift for them, the housing levy for them, even if they are not under the payee bracket.
Right.
And also you as a business owner, you the director of the company, you're supposed also to pay as an employee of your company.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the work of the employer side and what do they do? And then now for you as an employee, what do you receive?
So at the end of the day, you get your pay slip. It has all the deduction. The employer deducts and pays KRA.
Right.
And pays the NHIF and SSF. They pay on your behalf. If today KRA comes to your organization and they find you did not do that, you as the employer, you're the one who is responsible. So they're going to charge penalties and interest to you as an employer. And even if that employee left, you're going to pay on their behalf. Even if you did not deduct, you're going to pay on their behalf. Yeah. So it is the employer obligation to do that.
Right.
So that is on the somebody, agency who is employed.
Right. Now who is in business now?
Now who is in business now, you have to pay taxes on your income. And we have categories. You could register for turnover tax. You could register for corporation tax. Most of our companies come with the corporation tax at the end of the year, 30%. Right. And when you're doing the corporation tax, you have to mind your bookkeeping. Right.
Now, meaning now people like you come into play.
Yes. So you have to look at how you keep your books. You have to show your sales. You have to show your expenses very well, because those are the calculations you're going to use to lower your profits. So you find our Gen Z, because you are able to know how you're running your business, you don't mind bookkeeping. Right. But at the end of the day, if KRA will knock on your door and tell you, bring your books, you don't have anything. Yeah. So that is...
But then, sorry, just to interrupt, what is the function of now a certificate, a tax compliance certificate, if you've done the rest of the work? I thought that's where you give it to them now when they visit you.
No. You might be having a tax compliance, but you're not compliant with taxes.
Right, meaning that you've not been constantly filing, or you've been evading?
You've been filing. Even many companies, they even have tax arrears, but they have a tax compliance certificate. So a tax compliance certificate is a certificate you apply online. Right. If you pay your taxes and your ledger, we call it the ledger, doesn't have any arrears, you can get a tax compliance. But today KRA can come, because KRA is obligated to audit your books for 5 years. This is what they do. All the returns we do are self-assessment. Yes. You sit down, you do it. You sit down, do the return. You sit down, do the audited report. KRA on their side, they are supposed to verify what you've been doing. So they will stay for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They are supposed to come back and review your books.
And that is for institutions now. And that could include government agencies and also non-government agencies.
Yes.
And now businesses at large.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone who is doing business. So organizations, institutions, even business owners. Right. And right now we are having a lot of tax audit because the collections are low. So a lot of letters are sent out there for now companies to be audited. Right. So I came back to the point. So KRA can come in and look at your books and actually find you did not pay your taxes well. You have the tax compliance certificate, yes, but you're having tax issues. Yes.
Meaning that?
Meaning now that you have to solve your tax issues. And if they do a demand, when you do audit, they will give you findings at the end of it. So possibly they tell you pay 3 million. So they look at your income. Mostly when
and how do they estimate that? I'm also wondering, what are the instruments they use? If they visit me, I'm located here with my hypermarket or supermarket. Yes. How will they do this estimation? Are they going for product by product and the consumer behavior and the number of clients I have and the size? Or what are the considerations?
I'll tell you. Mostly when they come, remember they are coming for past history.
Right.
So we are coming 2024. We not touch 24, 23 backward for 5 years. So when we come, already you told them that you sold, for instance, 2023, you sold 5 million in that supermarket. You have your expenses. At the end of it, you paid them 100,000 for corporation tax. So they want to confirm if this 100,000 was correct or you evaded tax. So when they come, the very first thing they want to look at your bank statement.
Yeah.
They want to see your till numbers and your pay bill numbers. So you told them you sold 5 million.
Right.
When you give them your bank statement, most of Kenyans, I've done this for 10 years, most you find your bank statement is way higher. Your M-Pesa, your till is way, way higher. So you find the bank has 10 million.
Right.
So it is a 5 million over what you even declared. So that's what they are looking for.
Right.
And actually, if they find it is 2 million, 3 million that you did not declare, they'll just charge 30% of that. That's about 900,000. Yes, it's quite expensive. About 900,000 to pay.
Right.
So they also check VAT if you're in a VATable position, if you did not do your VAT well. So the same amount, possibly they find that you did not declare 3 million, for instance. You did not declare 3 million. So they'll charge that 3 million for corporation tax and for VAT if your business is VATable. So for VAT, 16%, for corporation, 30%.
Right.
So that's quite expensive. Then they also look at your employee. They find that when they come in, your payroll has 10 people, yet your pay as you earn report you've been filing has 3 people.
3 people.
So they also charge you for that. They also find that you're supposed to be doing withholding. You had professional fees. I came to you as a tax auditor or an auditor. You pay me 50,000, you did not withhold 5%. Or a legal fee you paid, you did not withhold 5%, they'll charge you that 5%.
Right.
So it will become a letter of finding with all these taxes and then pay us this money.
And then now it's a penalty?
Yes,
so
penalty.
You can also now head to jail. They can take you to jail for that.
No,
because we've seen, I think it's been with Tabitha from the Karoche. They're on and offs, on and offs. But then sometimes there's things like tax relief. I know you'll talk about that later on. But then what I'm also wondering is, all these transactions and everything we are talking about is revolving around revenue collection. And our KRA is the final authority. So that means there's need to be, for, I'd say, a sound tax collection system. I want you to talk about that and how that is imperative. Okay.
Okay, I know first of all, doing business in Kenya is not easy. And most of the time, we are looking on our way that we don't pay taxes, the right taxes. Of course, KRA is a collecting agent. And every time we have this conversation, open discussion with KRA, we always tell them that you push us so much, you audit us, you push business people. But when it comes to spending, because that is where the problem is, when it comes to spending, they'll say we don't spend the money. The money is spent in treasury and those other. So when we hear about corruption, KRA says, no, we are doing our mandate of collection. So for me, when I look at now handling taxes and the issues, and if we would improve on collection, we also need to cater on the expenditure. As in the same energy they are spending on collection and audits, the same they do it on the expenditure.
But then when it's laundered, what usually happens? Because we have a case even right here of Nairobi. I think they say Nairobi County collects more than 4 billion. Is it per month? I don't know if that's in 2 months. I think it's per month. And that money just disappears, but then you ask, where was KRA when this money was disappearing?
My goodness. You know, for me, I've done this for that time. There are so many loopholes around when we look at the collection of the county government, they use, for instance, if you look for parking, they use that number. That's a whole collection system that is not intertwined with KRA. Yes, it's not intertwined with KRA.
So it's with county,
it's county with, yes, it's revenue county. Actually, the money collection in Kenya is collected in so many.
It has like kitties with individuals assigned.
So, and you remember this county, if you go to this is Nairobi County. If you go to Kiambu, they have their own collection
mechanism.
So, and when we talk about those collection, remember, we have parking, we have licenses, we have even hospitals. When you go to a hospital and you pay, where do that money go?
Right.
All those are collection spaces that they are getting that money from. So you find that there's a lot of collection that is happening every day. If you look at all the hawkers, you even find people who come asking for very small amounts of money just all over. So collection is happening. System for collections is happening. But now the area where we are having issues is on expenditure side.
Right. And that's beyond now the local mwananchi.
Yeah.
Because you've done your work. Yeah. Somebody said they've terrorized your paycheck this month, and now it's up to them. Yeah. But then we keep on hearing, you know, like I think for October, I was checking a report where KRA surpassed their target. They collected, I think, 210. They initially had targeted to collect 201. Yes. In such a case, is it good news for the mwananchi? Because I'm also expecting now, if it's good news, it means they should lower at least the tax bracket. But you can also talk about the tax bracket and how it affects now the local mwananchi, and also how is it stipulated? You know, who are the authorities? I'll say the actors who come up with these tax brackets and the banding, right?
Yes.
Yes. Please talk about it.
So when we come to making tax changes, there are so many. There's so many players in the market. Okay. Remember, KRA is just a collection agency. We have the treasury, we have the tax policies, we have public participation. Every time we're having a bill, like now we are having amendments, they're in the parliament. So there's all this, even the finance bill has to go all the way to the parliament. You remember first hearing, second hearing, then all those. So there is the committees that sit down and say, and remember, we are having also external forces, IMF, World Bank.
Oh, they determine a
lot.
Yes,
they also determine because they have given us loans. Yeah. They want their loans to be paid. So when the country is struggling to pay, they will say, bring your taxes, we see why is the collection having issues. So they also determine, so they are external forces. If we didn't have them, that's okay. But they are, because they want to protect their money and make sure that they are repaid.
With interest, if it
with
has
the interest,
accrued.
Yes, with the interest. So there are all these players who put things together and they say, why don't we have this and this? When that rule, when the bill is put together, should go to parliament. So there are so many other players. And we remember we have the public participation. And this public participation has to come to even to institutions. ISPAC. ISPAC has to be given that amendment to go through. There are so many other players, and we give those participations before it comes law. So it's a very vigorous process to just,
come into play. But then that affects now the state of the economy. Yes. Now inflation.
Yes,
and
a lot.
Was it last week when the deputy president said inflation is now down? Is it by 1.7 or 2.7%?
Yeah.
And Kenyans went ablaze on social media saying that's not possible. In fact, that's when they are more hard pinched. Right now, it's like it's going down and downer. You know.
Yeah. Actually, when we even say, they even say the maize flour is cheaper. Yeah. But you cannot be able to feel it. Let me tell you something. When the government doesn't have money to spend, the money is for recurrent budget, like it comes to your pocket, to the other pay for drug, but doesn't have money to pay for development.
Yes.
Where you're now paying a contractor, you're paying for delivery of items. There is no money in circulation. It's like when you're having a salary, your own salary at home, and when you come home, you just say, I can only pay rent, pay school fees. Okay. We are going to minimize our budget on eating. We are going to eat this. We don't have money. People, at the moment, people don't have the buying power.
Right. The purchasing power.
The purchasing power. So that's why we can't feel the issue. So there's a lot of cost strain. The collection that is done is not equivalent to what they want to spend.
Right. But then they collect at the end of the month. And people will wonder, Connie Pesas in end up, collect. Like for this month, with the 2.75% for shift, they'll expect things are going to at least take a different, positive turn. Yeah. But again, they're hit with bad news. In fact, they're saying things are now worse. So meaning again, they're coming up with an, you've just mentioned, in fact, is it Treasury, Cabinet Secretary, and they want to resuscitate some facets of the hotly rejected 2024 finance bill. And of course, it had a place, I think, where the digital tax, we'll talk about the digital markets shortly. Yeah. So when you look at such things and how, the local management is being affected, do you believe we have a functional tax system from an expertise view, or we are still in the baby making process? So this is a development thing. Today it's better, tomorrow it's shaky, today it's good news, tomorrow it's bad news from your observation.
That's a good one. For instance, when we talk about collection, like this month becoming at the target or a bit higher, the government, how collection is happening is also how expenditure is happening. It's happening currently. So it's not that they are collecting, storing somewhere, then at the end of the year, that is when we start spending, no.
Oh, it's in and out?
Yes.
Okay.
At the same time. So when this money gets to Treasury, it decides according to the budget and appropriation budget, we're supposed to spend this day. So it's happening concurrently. Okay. So if there are deficits, they are happening at the same time. Yeah, so there's no money in store to just say, oh, we're going to now start doing this. That's why you hear there's delays to send money to the counties, or there were delays for this, because there is a committee that sat down and said, for the money we have collected, what is the most probable need at the moment? So spend here, spend here, spend here.
Right.
Then this waits.
Right.
So when we talk about the collection system, there's a lot to happen for sure, a lot.
Is it for now, maybe you can talk about for individuals and then we can switch to institutions now.
Yeah. So for individuals, if I were there, first of all, for business owners who are struggling to start, because doing a business in Kenya is quite something.
It's a business itself.
Yes, it's a business itself. Yeah. Having the incentive that if you're at a below this level, we're okay with
startup level.
Startup level.
Actually, most cropping ones are startups.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
SMEs.
Yeah. SMEs. And remember, SMEs, by the time they even stabilize, is 3-4 years. And we are told 75% businesses collapse within 5 years.
Yeah. In fact, today we've read about 3,000 of them closing.
Yes.
And they are attributing it to finance bill and COVID.
Yes.
So I'm like, COVID is now 5 years ago. What else are we going to say?
Yeah.
They're adding in the anti-finance, protests. So we're also trying to weigh how did they affect, closure of SMEs.
Yes.
But it's worth a reason, anyways. It's worth a reason.
Yeah. So, for instance, let me say when it comes to entrepreneurs, because I interact so much with entrepreneurs, we are in a different season that requires your business to be done in a very smart way.
Right.
So it's not the way you open a hotel and everybody just comes in. So right now things are different. There's a digital perspective.
Yeah.
The people that you're serving are quite knowledgeable. They are quite, customer service has to be keynote. So you find people who are coming with so many ideas. Like now if you go to a business like a Mokonji, and you just say, oh, I just opened somewhere, I put my cups in. There are people there. There are people going to China and they are selling those things all the way from China. So there's a different perspective. You have now to focus in a different angle. Customers are now very sensitive. Today you cannot say I have royal customers. Today they are yours, tomorrow they are somewhere else. Yeah. So there's a lot of changes that happen from COVID downwards. I believe life took us to a perspective to just know that things can change.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you would argue and say COVID is now 5 years gone. Why are we still reeling from the same effect,
There are businesses that have never been able to recover. Especially when possibly your collection was still high. especially for businesses that had debt, loans. Those one could collapse because you couldn't be able to pay your loans. Even right now, as first of all, the interest rates are very high at this point. And if you're looking to a business and you have loans, high loans, with the purchasing power being low, that you're not able to pay you balance of everything. So if you had those projects that were very expensive and loans, you might be having issues. And so for me, for people that I'm seeing them able to thrive right now, because there are still businesses that are thriving, they are doing something different. They are able to have a lot of customer service. They are selling in cash. They are able to do collection that is not credit days. You know, the business that you stay for 30 days without payment. If you do that, you're going to close.
Right.
So you have to consider cash business. Consider customer service, a lot of it, digital tools, a lot of social media marketing.
It's a digital market now. It's literally another full entity that's now taxable on its own.
Yes, a lot of putting your product out there, making your product very good. Now the people that you are selling to have to even view your branding, view your credibility. So the customer is knowledgeable more than before.
Like they know what they want already even before the product is on the shelf.
And before they came to you, they looked for 10 of you online. And then they came.
They landed on you.
Yes.
By grace. We have like 6 minutes to go. Time is really running fast. I want you to talk about, is it possible for small businesses to receive things like tax breaks or tax reliefs? As there's a word that's also called tax holiday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How does it come into play now for, I'd say, SMEs specifically?
Okay.
Is it possible for them to have a period of break?
Yes.
And factors that lead to that?
Yes. First of all, for SMEs, don't register your business to be vatable. I've seen them, because VAT is quite expensive. I've seen people making that mistake until you start and you hit 5 million turnover. So don't register, even if you're selling something vatable, until you hit the 5 million threshold. When you do, now register at that point.
And that's $50,000 US. That means you'll have to be in operation for quite a season time.
Yes, you know? Yes. So that one covers you as an SME. The next point that is that you can do is bookkeeping. I see people, SMEs lose on that. When you open a business, most probably you're going to make a loss first year, possibly second year, you're just struggling, but you don't have records. So even if you made a loss, you're not supposed to pay taxes, but you cannot demonstrate that loss. So bookkeeping and getting an accounting software that can help you being able to maintain that and show your bookkeeping very well, that is also an advantage.
Right.
The other spaces, when you're having employees, not unless if they are not at 24,000, if they are below, you don't have to pay. But you as a business owner, you're the first employee of the company, so you're supposed to pay as you earn. And just the other part is just tax knowledge. For us as a company, LWK Africa, we train on taxes. Tax webinars every month. Just some knowledge, having that basic knowledge as an entrepreneur.
You'll give the details of how people can get to see that.
Yes, that knowledge of tax will help you. When you're even engaging with somebody, you're able to engage in the correct manner. Yeah,
I'd like you to shortly, because we are just about to exit, before you say how people can get to hear from you. I think the importation part also matters, because there's people who import goods from outside country, and now the customs come into play. But then we've had so many scandals, especially at the declaration point, and you know, the people and the authorities there. So what happens when it comes, for example, if you import, let's imagine, which one is my favorite? Tesla, one of the latest from Elon Musk, a Cybertruck, How do they determine the value of that car so that KRA collects its own, and then the customs, and then everything else, and then finally they come up with they generate what? There's a document they generate here. Just forgotten the name. Yes, exactly.
So you must provide an invoice of how much you purchased your goods. And that's where the mistakes come in.
For Mutumba, specifically, we'll talk about Mutumba.
Mutumba, yes. So what people do, the IDF the import declaration form, you write that you bought this mtumba for 2 million, yet you bought for 4 million.
So you lied.
You lied. Then they can, so you're supposed to submit a packing list, an invoice, and that IDF. That they are going to determine. When they look at the, right now they are able to even count. So, and they have those forms that this should be this much. They have, they have margins, so they can even be able to see how much you're supposed to pay. Yeah. Then we have investigation unit in KRA. And this is what I would want to caution people who are doing import. You might be able to lie today, or you use a clearing and forwarding person who lies. You're innocent, but that person, when they were doing this transaction on your behalf, they cut corners. They have their own nefarious ways. Yes. But the investigation unit is very active. They'll stay for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They'll get all those information. Right. And they will ask you even for bank statement to see how much you paid on the other side. So your bank statement cannot lie. Some of people buy with LCs from the bank. So you cannot say this LC was paying something different and your IDF has something different. So you find it a very hard case to solve. So I would encourage you to just go the right way. Yeah, it's hard pinching. You lose something, but even you've done it the right way. Hair. Yeah, by the way, right now they can tell you this hair is not for $20, it's for $40. But then how did we figure to a point that we are taxing nails? But anyway, it's a lucrative business. Cosmetic is a very, if you go to Dubai, it's a big business. Booming. It's booming. Yeah. So please tell how people can get to find you, and the part that we've not talked about, they can pick up with you on social. Please tell them on social media and how they can get. All right. So my name is Dr. Regina Kengori, CPA-K. You can see me on socials. RWK Africa. You can also see us there. We do a lot of tax training and training on bookkeeping, audit. We always believe that when you learn, you understand, you're able to make better business decisions. Our webinars are free, and we have a webinar, by the way, on 15th. How can this Friday. Do they need tickets? No, when you come on our social, you're going to see the code. Oh, there's a number there as well. Yes. Okay. Or I can share a number. Please share very fast in 10 seconds because we're exiting. Okay. In 10 seconds. 07228. Okay. Right at Y254 channel, what have you learned about taxes? And if you have many questions, I'll share with her off the air to ensure that you tag us on the socials. Please share the number. 0728 89 74 29. And we have a launch that we are doing. We are doing rebranding. We have a mentorship program, especially for people who want to learn about business. They can come 22nd. That is next week on Friday, MKU Auditorium from 9 to 2. You can get all that in our social media handles. There's a number there, and also the one that you've given as well. That is good. 0728 89 74 29. All right. Thank you. So you know how to get started. If you're a business owner, if you are starting the journey of entrepreneurship, if you want to also become an expert like her, she's also a mentor and entrepreneurship. She has all the vast skills that you need. Ensure that you call that number. On 15th, we'll be learning about how to start and grow a consultancy firm. Wow, super amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Regina Wanza Kingori, for sharing your insights. Karibu sana. All right, so we also say thank you to you too for watching us from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early right here. Enjoy your Tuesday.